Hello.
Hi.
Hi, good evening. Welcome. Hi. So, my name's Kit. I teach philosophy at Azim Premji University. You guys want to introduce yourselves? You're on mute, Abhishek.
Hi, my name is Abhishek. I'm also philosophy faculty member here at Azim Premji University.
Hi, my name is Aditi, and surprise, surprise, I also teach philosophy here at Azim Premji University.
Yeah. So we thought we'd just have an extra session because philosophy is a little bit of a weird subject to apply for. We thought we'd have an extra chance to meet you and talk through some of philosophy, and also give you a chance to see what philosophy is like. So, hi, Asim. Asim, introduce yourself, please.
Hi everyone, this is Asim, and I also teach philosophy at APU. Nice to be here.
Yeah. The plan for today is we'll introduce ourselves just briefly, say a little bit about what we do, what we're interested in, and then Aditi is going to take us through and give us a sample of what philosophy is like at APU. Do a little brief class on bullshit, right, Aditi? Yeah. And we're still forgetting.
Yes, I am. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yes.
And after that, Abhishek is going to chat to a couple of our students, our current student, Chantal and Siddharth, who's already passed through. And then we'll have a look at the exam, and then we'll do Q&A. Okay, so that's the plan. So let's just introduce ourselves a little bit more in detail. So yes, I'm Kit. I'm interested in the question, how do scientists think? How do judges think? It turns out it's much harder than you might imagine. Right? Thinking scientifically is a bit like riding a bicycle. You can be very good at it, but very bad at knowing how you do it. Right? How do you know just how far to lean into the corners? You know, but how do you know? Thinking scientifically turns out to be the same sort of thing. It's very difficult to understand how we do it, and it's even more impressive than riding a bicycle. That's what I'm mainly interested in, but I'm also very much interested in ethics, particularly this subject called meta-ethics. What are ethical claims about? I get into a good bit of politics as well. I'm all over the shop, unfortunately. Who's next? Abhishek. What are you into?
Hi, Abhishek here. Hi again. So I am interested in looking at how groups reason, how beliefs evolve in a group, and how do we make sense of disagreements in communities like those of scientists. It might seem a bit counterintuitive that what is rational for individuals, or what is the correct mode of thinking for individuals, might not always be the correct or the most optimum way for thinking for groups. So yeah, that's primarily what I look at. I'm also interested in studying political groupings. Yeah, that's basically what I look at.
Cool. Aditi?
Sure. I work in a range of different fields in philosophy, primarily in ancient Greek philosophy. I'm interested in this concept of harmony, which I find in the writings of Plato. But I'm interested in kind of broader implications of what this term means, both historically and in the contemporary world, and what it can tell us about political philosophy, about aesthetics, and about ontology. So that's kind of where that's kind of my main area of interest. But I also have broader interests in the history of political and social thought in particular, and in aesthetics and the philosophy of music.
I've just realized we all are all over the shop. We all do all sorts of things.
Yeah, we really do. And that's kind of, this was my restrained version of what I'm interested in. If you let me go on, I could take up the full hour. So yeah. There's that.
Yeah. Asim, are you going to give us some sort of nice, tight focus research, or are you also interested in lots of things?
Yeah.
Okay.
Lots. Yeah. So yeah, my main research has been in philosophy of education. So I have looked at what kind of education, what are the aims of education, what should we do, particularly to kind of empower students, to kind of enable them think critically, to able to engage with their reality in a way that kind of is more enabling for them rather than disabling, which a lot of education happens to do. And similar to others, I'm also very interested in political philosophy, questions of especially the constitution that we have, the kind of ideas that we have, and how does it translate into practice, in everyday reality in India, or it does not translate many times. Then questions about aesthetics, which shape our sensibilities of how we look at the world, what we think is right and wrong, and how art and politics intersect with each other. So yeah, I'm also quite all over the place. And recently, my interest has also grown into public health, because I've been working in the COVID response, and right now vaccination is is just by the corner. So we are working on that as well quite a bit. Yeah.
Oh gosh, TLDR, we interested in far too many things. Okay, let's maybe that's a little bit kind of inaccessible in a sense if you haven't yet got any experience in philosophy. What we thought we'd start with is give you guys a sense of what it is to be in a philosophy class in APU, because we do it a little bit differently. So Aditi is going to come and tell us about bullshit. Take it away, Aditi.
I am. Well, okay, so this isn't exactly like a class at APU because I actually can't see any of you. Although maybe it is like an online class at APU, so I don't actually know who I'm talking to. But please, I will be asking you questions. So please do respond to those questions in comments, right? I believe you're able to do this, and I'll be keeping an eye on that. Okay, so to get us started, I have a question for you. Can you lie about something if you don't know anything about it? What do you all think? All of you watching us here, just really quickly, if you have any thoughts on this, do you think we can lie about something if we don't know anything about it? Right? So, okay, here's a scenario. I have a puppy. I don't see her or hear her. I don't know where she is. She's somewhere in the house, right? I actually have no idea about where she is. Now, if I say the puppy is sleeping, do you think that's a lie? Do you think I'm lying? Right? Does anybody, I mean, if you have any responses, please do go ahead and leave them in the comments. If not, I'll keep going, right? Does anybody, do any of you folks have any views in this who are in the call right now? Do any of our current students, Chantal, Siddharth, do you have any views in this? Since you're here, I'm gonna make use of you.
I think you're lying, yeah.
I think I'm lying, but I don't know where she is, right? Like,
so you're giving us false information.
Right, but like maybe she is sleeping, right? So what if now, okay, fine, okay. Now I go into the room and she is in fact sleeping. Does my lie then become a truth?
You were lying that you had the knowledge.
No, but I didn't say I know she's sleeping. I just said she's sleeping, right? That's what I said. I said the puppy is sleeping. Now, here, what if it corresponds to the fact that the puppy is actually sleeping? Is it not? Is it? What's going on here, right? That's the puzzle that basically motivates the philosopher Harry Frankfurt to distinguish bullshit from a lie. Okay, now, bear with me a second. Here's a sleepy puppy, right? Now, it's obvious that she's very, very sweet, yeah? She's a cute puppy? Yes. Now, if I say this is not a cute puppy, that's a lie, right? Because we know she's a cute puppy. Or if I say that this is a cat, I think that's also a lie, although sometimes I'm not so sure, right? Now that's a lie, but right now I don't know where she is anymore, and if I make a claim about her, that for Harry Frankfurt is bullshit, right? Simply put. So the idea is bullshit is making an assertion about something such that, so you make an assertion P, such that you don't know that P, and you also don't know that not P. Right? So when I say the puppy is sleeping, I don't know that she's sleeping, but I also don't know that she's not sleeping, right? And that's what makes it bullshit as distinguished from truth. And this is Frankfurt's definition of it, right? The word bullshit's been used variously to mean all kinds of stuff, including just nonsense, rubbish, but he kind of wants to distinguish it from this very closely related phenomenon of lying, right? So, okay. There's that. And please, as there are comments coming in, if any of the rest of you want to jump in as well, we're here, and respond to those comments, I welcome this. So that's one thing, right? So our classes are always interactive, and I want to keep it that way. Okay, so that's that for a brief kind of distinction between bullshit and truth. Does that sound plausible to the rest of you? Or is that clear to everyone? If not, please leave a comment and I'll clarify further, right? So what interested Frankfurt, right, were three kinds of things, right? So what is bullshit? Having a clear understanding of what bullshit is, why there's so much of it, and what function it serves. Right now, time permitting, I'm going to ask you to think about all of these questions, with specific domains, right? So we're not going to go all over the place. That's the idea. Okay, so, and I won't get in right now. We don't have enough time to get into the minute details about there's truth, and then there's lies, and then there's deception, and then there's bullshit. What does bullshit fall in all of this? For our purposes, let's just say very simply, a lie is you know what the truth is and you misrepresent it, right? So right now I know she's sleeping. I just saw she's sleeping, the puppy, and if I say she's not sleeping, that's clearly a lie. Yeah. But if I don't know what's going on, I say something, that's bullshit. Now, would you folks just reflect? So take a minute. I'll do the same thing. I'd like you to come up with examples of one, a lie, and two, a bullshit with respect to the COVID-19 vaccine. Can we do that? If you can just take a minute, pause, and kind of think about this. Ooh, in the meantime, sorry. In the meantime, Siddharth, Chantal, if either of you would like to weigh in while we're waiting for people to come and see, I'm putting you on the spot, I know this, but this is easy. Can you think of an example of a lie? Forget the vaccine, think about COVID-19. Can we think of examples of lies and bullshit about COVID-19? Here's a lie, COVID-19 didn't happen, right? Okay, how about some bullshit? Siddharth, you want to go? Yeah.
Masks do nothing to protect you from COVID-19.
Masks, nothing to protect from COVID-19. Okay, good. Now, why is this bullshit rather than a lie? What makes it bullshit?
Oh no, I meant it was a lie.
Oh, it was a lie. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry. Okay, well, are there any conditions under which this might be bullshit and not a lie? Like, what would it take for that claim to be not a lie but bullshit?
I guess if you had no idea about anything, and this was the only thing given to you, and you believed it to be true, then it would be bullshit. But if you were given maybe both sides, if you knew both these things, then it could be a lie. I mean, if you knew what was true and then you still chose to say this.
Okay, good. So what you're saying is that bullshit isn't just a feature of the claim being made, but it also requires indexing it somehow to the person making that claim. Is that what you're getting at? So I mean, that's interesting, right? So let's go back to the beginning of the pandemic when there were world leaders saying exactly that. Right, so you had people saying that actually masks don't help against COVID-19. You had doctors all over the place saying the same thing as well. And then that tune kind of changed, right? So there was ambiguity. So that's one thing I think also, right? Bullshit can sometimes, so yes, it's not as clear-cut a lie as, say, COVID-19 didn't happen, right? That the pandemic didn't happen, because it really did. The fact that masks, right, or, so there is some space for ambiguity, and in that space for ambiguity. So one of Frankfurt's question is, why is there so much of it, right? Or like, where does it happen? What are the loci of bullshit? What are the places where you find bullshit? Seems that places where there is room for ambiguity, room for debate, that's where bullshit can very easily creep in, because you can actually exploit the fact that people don't know, or people are uncertain, or they're hesitant, and then that's kind of where you can introduce ideas, right? So arguably, perhaps even conspiracy theories can kind of creep in there. So you've got a bunch of responses in the comments now. I just see this, sorry. So Shivali says that COVID-19 is not a virus. Yes, so that would be a case of a lie. Satyakam says, could you please specify also whether you think what you're saying is a lie or bullshit, right? So we've got Satyakam saying that COVID-19 is spread by 5G towers. Wow, I haven't heard that one. That's incredible. But I guess that's just a lie, or is that bullshit? What do you folks think? Scientists aren't trying to invent a vaccine. That's bullshit. Shivali says, why is that bullshit not a lie? Why would you say that? This is an interesting one. Does anyone care to kind of weigh in on this? Why would it count as count as bullshit and not a lie? Could we not say that, in fact, there's these reports every day in the papers about scientists working on vaccines, and there are reports of successful vaccines in Oxford and Pfizer and all of that stuff, and so this is perhaps just a lie. If there's no ambiguity here. Do you think Shivali or anybody else in the comments or anybody around here live here with us who wants to weigh in on this? Why do you think this might be a case of bullshit and not, in fact, a lie? Sorry, Chantal and Siddharth. This is not fun for you, perhaps. No, it is. I'm just being the only two people being called on. But okay. Kit has something to say about random things. Right, that'd be a lie. Okay. So we've got another. While you're thinking about this one, and Shivali, I would love to hear more of what you have to say about why that's bullshit. Please to type this out. Let's keep going. Right. So we've got Tarun, who said that it's the erroneous belief that wearing a face mask that covers one's chin and throat while leaving the nose and mouth exposed provides protection, an example of bullshit. Right. And I think his response to this is, what if you said random things about it and entirely by coincidence you turned out to be right? Would that be a lie? Kit, do you want to maybe elaborate on that a little bit? If you'd like to.
So G. was suggesting that it's a lie just to respond randomly to things. A lie at least looks like it has to be wrong, right? You might think. So if I say something randomly, so I don't know, Chantal, I don't know what Chantal had for breakfast at all. No idea, right? Chantal had eggs for breakfast, I say, and I don't care about the truth whatsoever. But just by accident, I'm right. Did I lie? Well, maybe I tried to deceive you. It's not altogether clear. Maybe I didn't even try to do that, but it doesn't quite sound right to say it was a lie because I was right. That was my kind of what I wanted to say to G. Taryn.
Okay, cool. And I think you've got a bunch of responses from Tarun as well. This is kind of why I'm kind of sad we can't actually be talking out loud, because this is the most fun part of the philosophy classroom, is the discussions, right? So trying to have them online between comments and chat is a little hard, but okay, let's see. Tarun says in response, there's a difference between a lie and bullshit. Lie and the liar, bullshit disseminator's intent. Good. Seems to be it, right? Let's go back to the definition that Frankfurt actually gives us, right? So such that making an assertion, so someone making the assertion that be such that you don't know that be and you don't know that not be, right? That's what makes it bullshit. So the idea is that intent comes into this somehow, right? Whereas with lying, you're making the assertion that be and you know that not be. Right, so you say be and you know that not be, and then that's what makes it a lie, right? So you want people to believe that be, whereas you're clear on the fact that not be, right? So in fact, you know that masks protect against the virus, but there's a shortage of PPE, and you tell people that masks will not protect you against the virus. That becomes a case of a clear-cut lie because your intent is perhaps to deceive. But then what's the intent with bullshit? Why do people bullshit? So that was one of Frankfurt's other questions, right? So this distinction is one thing, but also why do we bullshit so much? Because there's lots of it. I mean, he begins his book very kind of picturesquely, but talking about drowning in seas of bullshit, right? So why is this in fact the case? Right? Okay. Asmi says, where do you draw a line in the area of ambiguity such that it differentiates a lie from bullshit? That's interesting. And Dia says, does that mean that lying without the intent to lie is bullshit? Well, what makes a lie then, Dia? I might ask you, like, why would you just say that there's lying without the intent to lie instead of just saying that you're bullshitting? Why would you want to hold on to this word lie with respect to bullshit? Because I think that's an interesting formulation of it, but I wonder what makes you suggest that. Okay. And Abhishek, you just jumped in as well, responding to Tarun. Do you want to say more? And I think Tarun just responded to you as well. So I don't have to just call on the students. I can call on my colleagues too. This is wonderful. Great. Abhishek?
Can you hear me? Yeah. I think Tarun has got into I think a very crucial bit of it, that when the speaker is trying to bullshit, the intent is not really to play the truth game. It's not really to say a lie, and neither it is to say the truth. So it's something else. So it's becomes more of a rhetoric thing. And if that is the case, then we might want to ask why it is the case that in public communication, especially, there is a lot of emphasis on using a means to persuade people without really having an intent to play the truth game. So why do you think that would be? Why do you think it is more preferable for a lot of people to just bullshit rather than be concerned about the truth or falsity of a claim?
Okay, so that's actually, and that's a great response to Frankfurt's question also, like, why is there so much bullshit? And then your response, I wish it seems partly is that because there are such high incentives to bullshit, right? We bullshit because we get away with it and we get rewarded for it, right? And you said rhetoric and the public sphere. Were you referring to particular? Did you have a particular domain in mind when you said that?
I mean, given the present the circumstances, it seems that 2 months back there was an election in USA and it was inundated with bullshit. So we might want to have a look at that particular sphere in some detail.
Right. That's interesting too. Yeah, the US elections. Also, Harishi says also that bullshit is easier. Well, yeah, right. It's a lot because here's the thing, right? So this case about my dog sleeping, right? I said I was bullshitting. Why would I bullshit? Well, because I'm lazy and I don't want to get up and walk around the house and go and see what she's doing. So someone asked me, "What's your dog doing?" Like, "Oh, she's sleeping." Saves me the bother. Saves me the bother of checking. Right? Saves me the bother of verifying whether she is in fact sleeping or chewing up plants or a book or something else, right? Which also keeps her quiet. So that's right. It's much easier, right? So if, I don't know, if you're giving a speech or even maybe even when you're teaching and someone asks you a question and you don't have the answer, we don't do that here. I promise, right? Or when you're asked a question and you don't know the answer. I mean, come on, we've all tried to bullshit our way out of situations, right? I'm sure you've done this with family too, unless you really are a model of virtue, right? You've done something you shouldn't have done and you don't want to give a direct response, or there is a situation where perhaps you're supposed to have the answer but you don't have the answer. You try anyway, and maybe you'll actually get it right, but you're not concerned with that. You're concerned with something else, right? So Frankfurt also thinks that's really important. Rather than intent, he talks about aims. And this is in one of the responses to Frankfurt. People talk about what are the aims of the bullshitter, right? And the aims of the bullshitter are something besides the truth, right? The aims of the liar are leading you away from the truth, but the aims of the bullshitter have nothing to do with truth at all. They have to do with different things, right? And it could be making one's life easier. It could be political gain. It could be personal gain. It could be all kinds of things, right? So that's kind of part of it. But yeah, I think I'm not sure where I am on time right now because I could really go on all hour about this and I want to hear more from all of you. But let's see. There's one more comment from Asmi who says that BS doesn't make you accountable for what you say. If you BS, you can use the lack of knowledge to back out of a debate. It prevents you from taking a stand and facing its consequences. That's right. That's great, actually. So maybe one way. So one of Frank's other questions: how do we combat it? What do we do to actually? So let's assume that bullshit isn't great, right? Sometimes maybe it's more innocuous than other times, right? But so, for example, lying about my dog, okay, big deal. Bullshitting about my dog, big deal. Bullshitting about masks and the COVID-19 vaccine, a pretty big deal, right? Or about COVID-19 in general. This has massive consequences, hurts a lot of people, kills people, right? So what do you do with that kind of bullshit? How do you avoid that version of bullshit? And perhaps part of it is part of it is that, right? Holding people accountable for what they say. Each other, everybody around us. Because there's one straightforward way of actually fighting bullshit in our everyday lives and studying philosophy, arguably, right? This was not all a big argument to talk about the wonders of philosophy, but somehow I ended up there. But maybe that's one way to actually counter this rising tide of bullshit. I think this is a good place to maybe pause and see how we're doing and maybe move on to other parts of this presentation as well. What do you folks think? Yeah, shall we? Sorry. Or does anybody else want to do anything else in the comments? Do any of other speakers want to say something further? Because I could keep going. Anyone else have views on fighting bullshit? So I think, so we have a sense of what bullshit is, I think, right? We're getting somewhat clear. Then there are lots of questions, of course, about the nature of bullshit, and we can really, that's a whole separate class, right? We have some sense of maybe why there's so much of bullshit and what, and what function it serves, right? And this has been suggested by a bunch of you in the comments, Asmi and Harishri. It's easier, it doesn't make you accountable, right? And it also helps us make the distinction clearer between lying and bullshitting, right? Great. But then, of course, here's the question about fighting it. So one way that I suggested is holding people accountable, taking what you say about why they do it and using that to also figure out how you could fight it. Any more suggestions for fighting bullshit? How might we actually do this? So the US elections that Abhishek mentioned, it was interesting how Twitter, right? Twitter and other social media sites began, in fact, verifying what was being said in those tweets, right? So they actually said this may not be true, or this might, they were flagging things. So in a way of, holding what people are saying. And also, why is there so much of it? There's stuff being said about certain media being more receptive to bullshit than others, right? It's easier to bullshit with the kind of social media that we have, and for bullshit to spread and then become these massive bullshit rumors that then change a great deal. Okay, Diksha has some questions about the BA in philosophy. So maybe this is a good time to perhaps, so I don't know, Diksha, you can become a bullshit warrior. I'm not sure. No, that's not a serious answer to your question. We will have real answers to your questions. But I think this is a good time to bring the class to just a brief sense of what a class might be like to a halt, and maybe move on to the next section. Yeah, taking a pause and thinking. I know this is kind of like we need more time, but yeah. But please do keep leaving comments even after we move on from this, everyone. And also feel free to reach out via email if you want to chat. Be happy to do that too, right? If you want to talk more about bullshit, I'm certainly available. Yeah. So, okay.
Should I call upon one of our alumnus to have a small discussion on life at APU?
Yeah, great. No, let's do that. Thanks, Aditi. So I just wanted to put in a little bit about class. So that's such a small segment of philosophy class. The trouble with philosophy class is it's confusing for about 2 weeks and then it's glorious. But to give more of the sort of feel from the student side, Chantal and Siddharth are here, and Abhishek's going to chat to them. Take it away, Abhishek.
Okay, so first I'll introduce our two guests here. Siddharth is an alumnus of Azim Thames University. He was a student of the Combined Humanities program, which is now trifected into philosophy, history, and English. He graduated in 2020, just this past year. And for his honors project, which he'll tell you more about, he took up a project in philosophy. Chantal, on the other hand, she is a student in a combined humanities program, currently in second year, and she is also interested in philosophy. She has taken a few courses there. So first, I want to get something from Siddharth on how was it really studying philosophy at Azim Thames University? Was it like different from what any kind of conception that you had of the subject? Was it same? Could you say something on that, Siddharth?
Hi. Yeah, sure. So I think one of the really nice things about philosophy in Azim Thames is, as you can see from the faculty itself, it's really broad. So you get to study a lot of different kinds of philosophies from different contexts, and it's not just some things you might find in an online course or something where just ancient Greek philosophy or something. You learn how a lot about this. But an even better part, I would think, is that you actually get to do philosophy. So you actually learn the skills required, which is really nice. So you learn how to reason. You learn, you learn how to reason. You learn how to think through things clearly and with a lot of clarity, which can take a little bit of practice. But once you actually do it, it feels it's rewarding, I should say, which is nice. I think those are some of the nice
How does it tie to the larger experience of studying at Azim Premji University? Could you speak something on that, Chantal?
Yeah, sure. So, you with Azim Premji University, I think you get to choose a lot of your courses, which is one thing that's really nice. So, when I was there, we had these things called the minor system, and I opted for a distributive minor, where I could choose from a broad range of different topics, such as development or education. And coming with that, having done a couple of philosophy courses, it really helped me contextualize things, and I understood. I was able to understand what education was for in a lot more clarity, for example, or what certain things meant in development. That's one thing, academically wise. And then, you get to show off to your friends a lot also, which is which is kind of cool. But yeah.
Do you want to say something on that, Chantal? Because first year you were in the campus, and now because of the whole pandemic, you are well at your home. It seems. Are you looking forward to coming back on the campus? What are the things that make the campus life interesting for you?
So I came from a convent school. So when I joined APU, it was a big shock. But as you can expect, it was a very good one. Here we call our professors by their first names. And I was sure that all the professors were actually testing us to see who would actually continue to use sir and ma'am, to see who's the really respecting ones. But then, you learn that these honorifics aren't really tied to respect at all. The thing is, at APU, I felt like I had actually joined a posh boarding school instead, because there were batch mentors. Asim took us to Cubbon Park and taught us calming exercises. Each person had an individual mentor to help you with academic stuff. Then the professors would just come and check in to make sure you weren't being overwhelmed. And seniors as well. Okay, we're not supposed to say seniors at APU because that enforces the hierarchy, but it was actually Siddharth back when he was very scary, and I thought he was an anarchist who helped me with my first ever philosophy journal entry. So I really miss campus.
Eager to go back to it, is it?
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk a bit about philosophy then. So how has it been like studying philosophy? Do you think that it adds some value to you? Do you think it, and like there are two things here. First, like the value that it might add, studying in itself, but there's also an instrumental bit to it. I mean, how it might prepare you for life after graduation. And I mean, probably you would have like lesser idea than Siddharth would have. But what do you think? I mean, what has changed in you after studying philosophy?
Mm-hmm.
And then Siddharth
Like Siddharth mentioned, you really get tools, So now if I'm reading about a government scheme, I can think, oh, they are being utilitarian instead of, going by the capabilities approach. How are they trying to maximize happiness here? Or whenever I see the word equal, Kit just says in my head, equality of what? So you're forced to use the skills that you've learned to examine everyday life.
Okay. Siddharth, do you have something to add in?
Well, no, actually, Chantal kind of covered it, but yeah, I guess also that in addition to that, you also get to think a lot more clearly. You get to think methodically, which is really helpful in things you do. Right now, I'm teaching English, for example, and so while I'm trying to design classes or thinking of objectives of certain units, I think, why is this necessary for someone to know? and what are things they could do with it, which is something I think I've learned through doing philosophy.
And how about like by studying philosophy, you would have, I mean, this is a feature of the upcoming major that students also need to take some extra, like some other subject. You take philosophy, you study philosophy, but in conjunction with some other subject. Could the two of you speak something on like how studying philosophy sits in with the study of some other subject?
So my minor, we call it interdisciplinary studies now, is sustainability. So we're talking about environmental studies and all. So I think what I've learned in philosophy about thinking through things clearly really helps with that, especially with the ethics part of it. We didn't really study ethics in detail, but how do we know that we know something? So when I read a report, I'm a bit more aware that what is this person really trying to say.
Something similar that I experienced, like for my graduation I studied science and engineering, but like after it, when I like moved to philosophy, when I was studying philosophy, it seemed that it was just a different perspective that I got. I mean, I could appreciate the intricacies of the subject, and there's a certain joy in engaging with the subject once you start engaging it at the really core and theoretical level, at the methodical level, as Siddharth was saying.
So while doing other subjects, another thing it really helps with is just understanding what the claims are. So how they're arriving at certain conclusions. When I'm doing something in economics, for example, I'm able to understand their reasoning, the author's reasoning or someone else's reasoning. I'm able to break down their arguments, which is something helpful not just for understanding the subject itself, but also for understanding public speaking or even just everyday general speaking.
And how does it sit in with like a general emphasis on doing something for public good? For example, a student fresh out of school might not even be aware of the possibility of having a job in the public sector. For a lot of them, the job in the public sector is simply joining a government sector. Basically, could be a PSU, could be bureaucracy. What other options can a person have, and how does philosophy sit in with that?
So actually, it was in last semester's political philosophy class. We were reading Nivedita Menon, and Asim did a unit on feminism. And this is very silly of me, but I didn't know that marital rape wasn't a crime. So that's when I thought, this is what I want to do. I want to help criminalize it and work with battered women and be a divorce lawyer, but not on the kind you see in Boston Legal and other Suits TV shows.
So it seems that a philosophical understanding, a more theoretical understanding of these issues like gender equality and how it manifests in terms of more minutiae like laws around marital rape can really help us engage with these issues. So even if you are doing law, having understanding of the philosophical parts of it can really help us make a difference in the society.
Yeah, definitely. Like, I was thinking of law before, but then I thought I need to have a grounding in knowledge before I just, I can't just do a 5-year course and think that's enough for my brain. You need more. You just need more learning.
And so, I mean, in APU at Azim Premji University, when you are doing your bachelor's in like whatever subject you choose to do it, you have the option of doing an honors project. And as I was saying earlier, Siddharth did his honors project in philosophy. Could you say something on that, Siddharth?
Yeah, sure. So my honors project, it was on, the title of the project was Morally Deviant Art. So I was interested in, when I took it up first, I was just interested in why people like engaging in art that they find disturbing, that they find repulsive. And back then I hadn't done too many philosophy courses. I think I'd done 1 or 2. And so after that, I started thinking about it. KIT was my honors mentor. And so when I started thinking about it, we sort of broke it down into certain problems. So the first problem was, why are they motivated to seek out art that they don't like, when in real life they wouldn't seek out the same thing? For example, I generally don't like looking at a can of worms in real life, whereas in art I wouldn't mind seeing that. I like watching horror movies when there's so much gore and blood and worms and all of that. So that was the first thing. What is the difference between art and real life? And so I started looking at that a little more, and it branched off into different regions. It started branching off into what are the limits of imagination? Are there things that people cannot imagine? And if so, why can't they imagine that? Then it branched off to, what does it mean to imagine something? And if you're imagining something, can you have an emotional response to it? Because normally to have an emotional response to something, you need to believe that something else is there to be real. Like if I'm afraid of a cow charging at me, I need to believe that the cow is actually charging at me. But it seems as if in movies, when I'm watching a movie or if I'm reading a book, I don't believe that the characters in the book are real, yet I actually seem to have emotional responses to that. So it started branching off into that, which could have been taken also like a psychology project, but my interests were primarily coming from philosophical side.
So it seems that in addition to the emphasis on the public service, which is, I think, a broad framework where Azim Premji University operates, there's also a lot that you can do while just looking at some core philosophical issues like morality of art, as Siddharth has worked on, or like one of the projects that the faculty members look at. You could study ancient Greek philosophy. You could look at how scientists reason. You could study theories of gravity. A lot of things that you can do. It's not, but yeah, the overarching theme probably would be to get an understanding of how all of this knowledge, in some sense, sits with the larger public interests. If you guys have anything else to add, please go ahead. If the audience have any question, please type it in the chat box. Else, I would like to invite Kit and the others to join in the show.
Hi, thanks. Yeah, thanks, guys. I will stop typing away in the chat. Hey, I'm fully here. Actually, okay. So just before we open up to Q&A, I want to have a quick chat about two things, which are common questions. Number one, the structure of the course, what you'll be actually doing. And number two, let's have a chat about the mock exam or the exam. We'll go through a mock exam together and see what it's like. Okay, structure of the course. So you might have heard this before, but just a quick overview. Can you share my screen? Is that sharing?
Okay.
Are you guys seeing my screen?
I did for a second and then I went away again.
And then it went away.
Oh gosh. Okay, never mind. I will just explain. So you've got some. You got it? You got the screen now?
Yep.
Sweet. So you've got this is the breakdown of the philosophy. Each column is a different semester over 4 semesters. The things in dark blue, they're the common curriculum, common to all courses. We've got Understanding India 1. Understanding India 2 is a big course, is about understanding India. We've got reading, critical writing, public reasoning. Public reasoning is kind of a philosophical course, but everyone does it. And we've got creative expression. And then you have this interdisciplinary studies, which is almost like it's sort of like a minor in something that's very practical. Everyone does that. And then the lighter blue ones, they're all of philosophy. We've got Introduction to Philosophy. That will help you get your foot in the door in different parts of philosophy. It's really about learning how to philosophize, how to work with other people to do philosophy. We've got Paradoxes, which will introduce you to formal logic. Sounds scary if you're not into maths, but it's absolutely fine. Ethical reasoning. We're going to be looking at case studies and understanding what's right and wrong, what's good and bad. much more complicated than it sounds, but pretty cool. Philosophy of science, you're going to be reading science. If you thought science was over, philosophy might not be your avenue. There's political philosophy, Aditi teaching right now. That's pretty cool. Very cool. There's philosophy of measurements, which is a very interesting course, which isn't taught anywhere else. That helps you see, every time you're measuring something, you're making assumptions about the way the world is and assumptions about what's right and wrong. When we talk about GDP of India, we're making assumptions about what's valuable. So GDP of India, for example, doesn't include unpaid housework of women. So there's this old joke that economists have that if you want to lower the GDP of a country, you should marry your maid. And it's true. If you marry your maid, the sort of income, the work that she does will be missing from the economy because you're no longer paying her. She's included in your household, or he's included in your household. So GDP comes with all of these assumptions about what the right thing and the wrong thing is. This course will help you identify that. There's aesthetics, which Asim's been running, which is awesome. It's about art and beauty. Philosophy of religion, which will help you understand people from different religions in India, understand where they're coming from, be able to engage with them. The self, which is about mixing sort of Indian and sort of Western ideas of what the self is. Is there such a thing as a person? And then we've got these capstone courses at the end, which kind of pull together all of your capabilities. Philosophy of resistance and nonviolence, and philosophy of environment. And in the middle of this, we've got the field project. That's a year-long engagement with some NGO in the field where you'll be every week working with them, serving people out there with guidance. And you'll be reflecting philosophically on your work in the field, helping people. And alongside that, there's 4 stream options, which maybe it'll be 4 economics courses or 4 history courses or 4 maths courses, or maybe it'll be a mix. So that was a kind of blizzard of different information. But to sum it all up, it's a really broad range of courses, right? Actually, slightly under half of your courses are pure philosophy courses. We think that you should be doing philosophy alongside other subjects because philosophy teaches you these general capabilities really, really well, better than any other subject, arguably. And we want you to take those capabilities and learn to apply them in other contexts outside of philosophy, right? We believe that philosophy is going to really best as an applied subject, when you take your philosophical ideas that you've had sitting in the armchair and you apply it to the world. So that's why one reason why we strongly encourage you to do other subjects. Your philosophy can help you in those other subjects. But we also think that the other subjects can help you in philosophy, right? If I do 4 courses in economics, and I'm doing philosophy alongside it, then I can start to think philosophically about it. I can start to think about questions like, well, okay, economists all make these assumptions about GDP, but hang on a second, are those assumptions quite right? And it will help you be a better economist as well as a better philosopher. Okay, that's the quick summary. There's much more on the website. Each of the philosophy courses, there's a little blurb about it, summarizing what we do, and you can catch more there. I should say the streams are not quite confirmed yet. Sweet. Let's chat briefly, or I'll pause momentarily for questions on the exam. Yeah, so there's some wiggle room, possibly, G-Taran, so G-Taran's asking about how much wiggle room there is, how much option there is. And as Siddharth was saying, there has been a fair amount of options. There's a slight difficulty in choosing as a student because courses which might seem very attractive to you actually won't fit you very well or won't fit what you want to do. So we'll make these decisions on a one-to-one basis, right? Working with you. It might not always be that you get what you want to do, but it might also not be that what you want to do is exactly what's going to work out best for you. If you do like a scatter shot of different courses which are unrelated, you can end up not really getting into any of them. So if you say an introduction to physics course and introduction to biology course, it's actually the introduction courses can be not so useful if you're only doing one course in there. It depends on the particular course and on the particular student. Yeah, good. Yeah, like Asim is saying, you get this wide exposure and this deep grounding in philosophy. And that's really the combo we want. You drill deep so you're really an expert in philosophy and then you can branch out into lots of different things. Okay. The other question that comes up a lot is about the exam. So the exam, I think, is Saturday. Is that right? Okay, no one's answering, so I assume it's Saturday. Hey, I strongly recommend you do 2 things. First, go to Azim Premji University, go to the admission section, scroll down to the sample question papers, and there's two or three papers you should be looking at. So the sample MCQ papers, you're going to be doing a multiple choice question. Let's have a look at, I don't know, paper C. This has both English and maths questions. The absolutely crucial thing you need to notice here is this point number 5. You get a negative mark if you get it wrong, and 2 marks for getting it right, and 0 for no attempt. This means that you should not guess, right? If you don't know, don't answer. If you're kind of fairly confident, then go for it. But if you just don't know, don't answer. That makes it unlike other MCQs. A lot of students who would otherwise be doing well guess because they're so used to guessing. Don't guess. If you're not sure, or if you're not kind of fairly confident, don't go for it. And that applies both to the English ones and to the maths ones. Give these a go. There's a fair few of them. It's a little bit different than what most people do in 12th, in that it's asking you to think for yourself a bit more, to come up with new ways of thinking of things. But with a little bit of practice, it's not too hard. The other paper you want to be looking at is the descriptive paper. So every student does the MCQ paper and the descriptive paper for the options that they've chosen. The descriptive paper for philosophy does not require any philosophical knowledge. Here's the sample paper. So you can run through this. It's actually just testing the way that you think. So Adira has been for a run and is not hungry. Boo has been for a run and is not hungry and thirsty. Karina's not been for a run and is hungry and thirsty. So is it true or false to say that we know that everyone in the room has been for a run, given that we know these things? Okay, you can sit down and work it out. I'll leave you to work out how you're going to work it out. Really, it's supposed to be a question that's kind of new to you, that you'll find your own way of answering. Here we've got this tricky concept of validity, which is a certain property of an argument, a sort of certain way an argument can be good, and you're going to kind of work out which of these arguments is valid or invalid. And finally, and here's the key thing about this final question, we are not looking for just a response to this, this passage. We're looking for an objection to this argument. An objection, even if you like the argument, we want you to object to it. Why? Because it's a big part of philosophy to learn to object to your own ideas. That makes them better. That helps you understand people who disagree with you much more. Good questions. We got Asmi. In the philosophy description paper, why aren't we asked to justify our assertion whether the conclusion is valid or not? Yeah, I mean, I think because that's a very tricky thing to do, actually, Asmi. We're going to just check if you get the right answer or not. Maybe you're not quite at the level where you can give a really clear response about why this is valid and why this isn't valid. That's probably asking a little bit too much of someone who's not done philosophy before. So just in that question, you would get the right answer. Now, this is only focus on getting the right answer. Yeah, I mean, maybe later on we would, in a class we would be asking you, okay, why do you think that? But in an exam, I think it's just aim for getting the right answer. This is just a mock paper, so the actual questions will all be slightly different, but they're actually fairly similar in format. So this is a pretty good guide to what's going to come. Okay, I've rushed through that, and I have a habit of talking too fast, and I have a terrible accent. So if anyone wants to ask questions or even get it to be repeated by someone with a less terrible accent, go ahead. Don't worry, it becomes easier to understand my accent after about 2 weeks. That's all I've got to chat. We've only got 5 minutes left, so let's switch over. If you've got any questions, now is your time. Abhishek, you had a point, or Aditi you wanted to add? Okay, now is your time for questions, either to us or to Chantal or Siddharth. I'll give you a minute. We should have music playing in the background. Doom, 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 doom. It's always so awkward, this pause whilst you're waiting for questions to come in.
I know. I have my internal music of crickets chirping, which doesn't help the pause.
Okay.
Yeah.
Whilst you're doing that, okay, we'll just Diksha's given a question, but we'll just give a couple of minutes, because something we haven't addressed is, what if people are applying for philosophy in a couple of places, or a few places? Like, what's distinctive about Azim Premji University philosophy? Where, do we mind if they go to other places? Yeah. What do we guys? What do you think, faculty guys, and also student guys, Siddharth and Chantal? What's distinctive about Azim Premji University philosophy? How we do it? Is it, or is it just the same as, say, your Delhi University, your Ashoka?
I think it's what's very distinctive about it is groundedness in real world problems, right? And in the Indian context specifically, I think that makes it unlike any program I've ever been in. And I've been in programs, they've been great programs. I was at Ashoka before I joined Azim Premji University. I've never taught political philosophy like this. It's an incredible course. Maybe Asim can say a little bit more about it, but courses like this are like what got me to Azim Premji University in any case. It's this curriculum, I think, is exceptional and very distinctive. So, yeah.
Ashoka is awesome, by the way.
It is, absolutely is. But yeah.
But we're also awesome in a different way. It's a slightly different
Yeah.
way.
Indeed. It depends on what you're interested in. Yeah.
Yeah, we're more
Right.
focused on you. Yeah. Asim?
Yeah. Just to add to what Aditi was saying, I think the major distinctive factor about Azim Premji University is its vision for social justice and a sustainable society, right? So all our programs are very much guided by that vision, and I can take a bet, right, that no philosophy program would have a field project as part of it, right? So this is not something that we are doing as a separate thing. It is actually something we feel that only when you apply what you are learning in the classroom in real life situations, that's when you learn the best. So it's not an additional thing. It's actually very core to the learning objectives that we have. That the more you get feedback from real world scenarios, the more you will actually refine your understanding, and come up with better theories also, right? One of the major problems that people highlight is that, people theorize in abstraction and they don't know real world challenges. And the other side is saying, we are only stuck in this immediate situation. We don't know how to address it, right? So what Chantal was saying about something like a very important issue in India, marital rape, and how do you address it? You need to be able to do both. You need to be able to understand the law, understand what is how legal judgments are being made, but also engage in real world scenarios. Look at Indian society, look at the challenges of making this law, and then really, and that's where the proof of the pudding is, right? So that is something which we are really kind of hoping to achieve through this course.
Yeah, you want to do something real and applied. You want to get down from the ivory tower and do something that matters on the ground. This is a good place to do it. Abhishek, what's your
In
thoughts?
addition, I think, it has already been mentioned a couple of times, but I cannot emphasize sufficiently on this, that you will be studying philosophy in conjunction with some other subjects. A lot of other places, the emphasis is just on studying philosophy. And I don't think any of us here think that is actually the right way of doing philosophy. Because, what philosophy does is it equips you to look at a lot of findings from other subjects. You need to know those subjects in the first place in order to do that. And I think that is one big distinguishing factor here at Azim Premji University.
Yeah, and for my one, I'm going to take a risk, and I'm going to say that what's distinctive is the close faculty-student relationships, those connections. Sidhu and Chantal can disagree with me now. Now is your chance.
No, I think this is definitely true. Kit, you must have called me, I think, 4 times by now just to make sure I'm not hanging myself in my room, which I wouldn't do. But, there's just so much.
Just to check in, yeah.
Yeah.
It's always a pleasure talking to you, yeah. Sidhu remains
I just
silent.
feel like cared here. Cared for.
Yeah, that's the word we use a lot, right? We have a caring community. We care for one another. And a pretty cool thing is it sometimes goes both ways a bit, That's pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know when college is opening, but opening physically, but the campus life itself is something that is quite special, and I think just that alone is enough of a reason to join APU, but you'll be doing philosophy in addition to that. And yeah, I don't know why you wouldn't after that.
Okay, cool. Yeah, thanks, guys. So we've got 4 questions or 5 questions. Should we just take them in rounds? So, Deeksha's question, Abhishek, is could you talk about defense as a career after doing BA philosophy? Or anyone who's got something to say on that?
If you mean that joining armed, I mean, it's not that there's anything stopping you from doing that, but it's not really the case that we'll be preparing you specifically for joining armed forces. Though, of course, you can join or you can find your skills of use in a place like a policies research group or a think tank. In those places, probably you can find your skills more useful.
Do you know my favorite philosopher in the world came from defense? Arif Ahmed. He's a fantastic philosopher, and he did his first few years of work in defense and then switched over to philosophy. Yeah. It's possible, Diksha. I honestly don't know where the Indian defense guys look at BA philosophy, because for quite a few years there's been kind of bad BA philosophy degrees around. There's a new crop of good BA philosophy degrees coming around, and within 2-3 years I expect the corporate world to have really caught up to this. I don't know if the defense is really quite as fast. I don't know. But yeah,
I'm not sure they would like the kind of questioning attitude that we aim to instill in our students.
I don't know, man. I don't know. Like my chat didn't. Yeah, in the officers, it's thinking for yourself is pretty good. Yeah.
My father was an army officer who encouraged me to study philosophy. Loved philosophy. So yeah.
Yeah, and we so my chacha was in the Indian Army, and we went and did we a bunch of philosophers, including Siddharth, went and interviewed him, and he was really into it, wasn't he? Yeah. Okay, next question. This is an easy one. Abhinav says, are the number of questions in the sample paper of MCQ and descriptive paper similar to the number in the actual exam? So the mock questions and the actual exam questions similar in number? Oh, okay. No one answers. The answer is yes. Yeah. Do you discuss mythological aspects in the classroom, Asim?
Yes, actually in the aesthetics course, and Sidhu, I don't know if you remember that, it was a few years back for you. But yeah, we do engage with things that shape sensibilities of communities, of people, and mythology does that, right? So creatively and critically engaging with mythology is equally important, both as an artistic endeavor, as a political endeavor, as an ethical endeavor. So, for example, one of the creative projects that students did was reimagining the Mahabharata and the story between. There is a story where Karna and Kunti meet, and Kunti is trying to say, "You are my son, don't fight with the Pandavas," and Karna is saying, "Why are you coming to me now?" Right? And the good thing about mythology is that there is no one story, right? There are multiple stories always. So it depends on how you retell the story and how you shape sensibilities ethically and politically through that. So we do that, right? As in, because if we want to engage with the society, we really need to know that. So yeah, we do.
So thanks, Asim. So Harisha, what's the average number of students per class? So this is an important thing we haven't mentioned yet, actually. So in a full class, in a section, there's typically going to be around 20 to 30 students, maybe a little bit less. But we in philosophy, we almost always teach in seminars. So you might have a big class together, like 20 people, maybe 30 people together, but then we broke down into smaller groups of about 10 to 12, including a faculty member, to have a debate, have a discussion. That's the kind of the centerpiece of most philosophy courses. So it's really quite small and quite interactive. We don't do these huge classes of 100. That just doesn't happen at Azim Premji University in any major. The kind of cap is around 35 at the moment, but I think something around there. Yeah. So the classes are fairly small, and in philosophy, the kind of major class, the core class, the seminar is even smaller. How much points do you give to the exam in choosing students for the courses? I've already answered this one. Asim, you know the answer to this one, right?
Examine choosing student for the courses. I'm not sure if I'm getting the question.
Just about the thresholds. It's just a threshold test. That's the point, right?
Right.
So
right. Yeah.
all you have to do is pass the threshold for the exam, and then we ignore it. So if you're over the threshold, then it's all down to the interview. And the interview is about your suitability. Are you the sort of person who can pick up philosophy and run with it? Are you the sort of person who's going to thrive in our community?
Right.
So the exam is merely a threshold, and that's it.
Yeah, I think just to emphasize that we are not really looking for you to already know philosophy. It's more about the attitude that you come with, and the attitude to learn, the attitude to like also contribute to the residential community. So we have a very diverse student body, and we know that there is a lot of learning that happens just like as Sidhu was saying, just by being on campus, just by interacting with a lot of students. So
Yeah, exactly. Asim, you're on the new campus, mate.
Yes, I am.
New campus.
A lot of
Just,
construction sounds behind me.
construction's still working, but we just moved in. It's quite exciting. It's lovely. Looking forward to having you guys back as well, students back. How is the admission assessment conducted? Is it online? I don't know, actually. Is anyone from admissions in the background can tell us? How is the admissions assessment being conducted this year? This round? Is Vrinda or
Brinda is saying the test is pen and paper, and then the interview would be online.
Interviews online, is it? Okay. That's a little bit of a shame, but we won't meet you in person, but we'll be here and we'll have a good chat. Yeah. Are there limited seats in the philosophy program? Yeah, Shrivali, there are. Yeah, but I think so. Being absolutely transparent, the university just said kind of find really good students to take on, and if if 10 good only 10 good students turn up, then they take those 10 and don't worry about the other guys. And if 30 turn up who are really good, they will take 30. So there's some amount of flexibility in the class size. But there's a maximum, right? Because we can't have a class that's 40 because it's too big. We can't really work individually with that many people. We want to form these relationships with teacher-student relationships with students, and so there's a cap on class sizes. Yeah. I don't know if there's an actual mathematical number that's written down somewhere, but it's going to be around 35. Does honing my study skills help me thrive studying philosophy? Aditi?
I think what helps you strive philosophy, well, of course, is studying, but I'm not sure what study skills you have in mind, right? I would say what helps you thrive studying philosophy is thinking hard, thinking clearly, thinking creatively. So but I think perhaps Chantal and Sid can say more to this than I can, right? But when I think about philosophical skills, it's not so much about, so again, the way we do philosophy really isn't about, it isn't about like learning facts to then kind of reproduce in an exam. It's actually about applying yourself to actual problems. So I'd say the best way to kind of thrive studying philosophy is to think hard, is to be curious. I think it's a set of virtues, intellectual virtues, rather than honing study skills as such. But I think maybe letting, Chantal and Sid jump in at this point, if you have things to say about that.
So something that's nice about the philosophy in APU is you don't need to know who said what, and you don't need to know everything Plato said, or you don't need to know everything Nietzsche said or something. You just need to have you need to get the tools more than anything. And I don't know how you thrive at philosophy yet, though. I'm not sure if there is anything that will help you thrive at philosophy. But I mean, you can get good at it, and you can have good ideas, make good arguments, but
hard work and intellectual integrity, Siddharth. Hard work and intellectual integrity, and talking to one another.
Hard work and dialogue for sure, yeah.
Siddharth, by the way, is being too modest. He really thrived. He did an honours program and he got an outstanding grade, top grade. So he's being far too modest there. I think he was really thriving. Okay, should we take one more question? We were kind of out over time already by 10 minutes. So yeah, the entrance is on Sunday, and the entrance test is at right, Sapna's already answered. And Vrinda already answered Taran's question. So you beat me to it, guys. Awesome. It's been lovely chatting to you. Wish we could see you and talk to you like face to face. this kind of sucks online. This online thing. Looking forward to kind of meeting some of you. Any closing thoughts, guys? You're on mute, Abhishek.
Just want to wish them luck.
Yeah. Wish you all the very best wherever happens. Take care, guys.
Take care, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Yeah, all the best, guys. See you. Thank you, Chantal and Sidhu. Bye.
Yeah, thanks, Chantal. Thanks, Sidhu.
Thanks a lot for joining.
Thank you.